In 2025, when fans and analysts look back at the UFC calendar searching for moments that captured the raw soul of mixed martial arts, César Almeida's comeback stood as one of the clearest examples of how thin the line is between collapse and greatness. His story was not built on hype, trash talk, or long-running rivalries. It was forged in a few terrifying seconds of danger, where instinct, patience, and belief collided under the brightest lights. Almeida's nomination for Comeback of the Year was not simply about a knockout. It was about transformation, about answering questions that had followed him throughout his rise, and about proving that elite striking is meaningless without the mental strength to survive chaos. César Almeida entered 2025 with a reputation that both empowered and haunted him. He was universally respected for his elite kickboxing background, a striker whose technique, timing, and precision separated him from many of his peers. His entries into the UFC had shown flashes of brilliance, sharp counters, disciplined footwork, and an understanding of range that only high-level kickboxers possess. Yet, alongside the praise came persistent doubts. Critics questioned his durability, his ability to absorb pressure, and whether he could remain composed when faced with fighters who thrived in violence rather than technique. In the UFC, reputation is fragile, and a striker labeled dangerous but breakable carries an invisible weight into every fight. Those doubts reached their boiling point when Almeida was matched against Abdulrazak Alhassan early in 2025. On paper, it was a striker's dream and nightmare rolled into one. Alhassan was known for terrifying knockout power, a fighter whose presence alone altered how opponents moved, breathed, and thought inside the octagon. He did not need volume, he needed moments. For Almeida, this fight was a referendum on his future. What followed, however, is what elevated this moment from a simple comeback to a defining chapter in UFC history. Instead of scrambling recklessly or attempting to trade power with a man built to win chaos, Almeida did something far more difficult. He slowed the fight down. This decision, made under extreme duress, revealed the core of his resilience. While his body was hurt, his mind remained clear. He trusted his training, his instincts, and his understanding of timing. Almeida did not rush to escape danger. He waited for it to reveal itself. As Alhassan surged forward, confident that the finish was near, Almeida began to read him. Every step forward created an opening. Every committed strike carried risk. In that microscopic window, one invisible to most viewers, Almeida found clarity. He planted his feet, rotated his hips, and delivered a perfectly timed counter left hook. It was not wild. It was not desperate. It was surgical. The impact was instant and unforgiving. Alhassan collapsed, his momentum erased in a single, devastating moment. The octagon fell into stunned silence before erupting. What seconds earlier looked like the end of Almeida's night had transformed into one of the most shocking knockouts of the year. This was not just a comeback. It was a reversal of fate, a moment where intellect defeated chaos. That single punch redefined César Almeida's career trajectory. In a sport where narratives are often cemented by how fighters lose rather than how they win, Almeida shattered the idea that he could not survive adversity. He did not merely escape danger, he weaponized it. The doubts about his composure under pressure evaporated instantly, replaced by admiration for his patience and mental discipline. Analysts who once questioned his chin now spoke about his fight IQ. Fans who feared his fragility began to see depth. The psychological impact of this victory cannot be overstated. Fighters carry invisible scars from moments of vulnerability, and many never fully recover from being hurt early in high-profile bouts. Almeida did the opposite. By surviving and finishing a feared knockout artist, he rewrote his internal narrative. Confidence gained through adversity is different from confidence gained through dominance. It is deeper, more durable, and more dangerous. Almeida did not just win a fight, he learned that he could endure the worst and still prevail. Technically, the knockout was a masterclass in patience and timing. Almeida's counter was not luck, it was the product of years of striking experience refined under pressure. He understood Alhassan's forward momentum, recognized the overcommitment, and trusted his mechanics despite being hurt. In a sport where many fighters abandon technique when chaos erupts, Almeida doubled down on it. That commitment to fundamentals under fire is what separates elite strikers from dangerous but inconsistent ones. The aftermath of the fight reflected its magnitude. Almeida earned bonuses, headlines, and a surge of respect from fans and peers alike. More importantly, he earned belief both externally and internally. Matchmakers began viewing him differently, no longer as a fragile striker, but as a complete fighter capable of navigating adversity. His 2025 season became a case study in growth, where one defining moment altered how his entire career was perceived. Beyond rankings and rewards, Almeida's comeback resonated deeply because it captured a universal truth of mixed martial arts. The sport is not simply about power or skill, it is about decision-making under extreme stress. The difference between defeat and greatness often exists in seconds, sometimes fractions of a second, where fear and faith collide. Almeida chose faith in preparation, in patience, and in himself. For fans who understand the brutality of the UFC, this moment felt authentic. There was no manufactured drama, no scripted comeback art. It was raw, unscripted survival followed by brilliance. It reminded viewers why the UFC remains compelling beyond belts and rivalries. It is a proving ground where character is exposed, not hidden. César Almeida's 2025 comeback is ultimately a story about restraint in a sport obsessed with aggression. When everything urged him to panic, he waited. When danger screamed at him to flee, he stood his ground. And when the moment arrived, he executed with precision. That balance of courage and control is rare, and it is why his name belongs among the most powerful comeback stories of the year. In the end, Almeida did more than knock out an opponent. He knocked down the doubts surrounding his career. He transformed a moment of vulnerability into a declaration of resilience, showing that true strength in the UFC is not measured by how hard you hit when everything is going right, but by how clearly you think when everything is going wrong. Jiri Prochazka's 2025 comeback cannot be understood through a single highlight or a single punch. It was not a flash of redemption or a sudden reversal of fortune. Instead, it unfolded slowly, brutally, and relentlessly across the year, shaped by attrition, suffering, and an almost philosophical commitment to chaos. Where César Almeida's comeback was a moment, Prochazka's was a journey, one that tested not only his body, but his identity as a fighter and a warrior. Coming into 2025, Jiri Prochazka carried a burden that only a few fighters ever experience. He was not just another contender trying to climb the rankings. He was a former champion who had tasted the highest level of success and then lost it under unforgiving circumstances. His past title loss still lingered in public memory, accompanied by questions about durability, damage, and longevity. Light heavyweight is a division where war shortened careers, and Prochazka's style, wild, pressure-heavy, and defensively unorthodox, had always invited punishment. Many wondered whether the miles on his body and the chaos in his approach would finally catch up to him. Instead of retreating or reinventing himself into a cautious, point-fighting version of his former self, Prochazka made a decision that defined his comeback. He doubled down on who he was. He did not try to become safer. He chose to become truer. In a sport where fighters often respond to losses by tightening up, lowering risk, and preserving themselves, Prochazka embraced danger even more fully. His 2025 campaign was built on the belief that pressure breaks technique, that exhaustion erodes confidence, and that heart can dismantle strategy. Throughout his fights in 2025, a familiar pattern emerged, one that terrified fans and confused analysts. Prochazka often started behind. He absorbed heavy strikes. He gave up clean exchanges. Opponents landed, scored points, and at times appeared to be in control. On scorecards, he was frequently losing early rounds. To the untrained eye, it looked like decline. To those who understood Prochazka, it was something else entirely. This was never recklessness without purpose. It was philosophy in motion. Prochazka has long believed that fights are not won solely by technique, but by the ability to endure discomfort longer than the person standing across from you. In 2025, he weaponized that belief. By allowing opponents to expend energy chasing early success, he drew them into a pace they did not realize was unsustainable. His constant movement, awkward angles, and relentless forward pressure forced exchanges even when opponents wanted space. Every strike they threw carried physical cost and mental stress. As rounds progressed, the tide began to shift. Again and again in 2025, Prochazka surged late in fights. Where opponents slowed, he accelerated. Where they hesitated, he attacked. His gas tank, mental toughness, and refusal to acknowledge fatigue became decisive weapons. Fighters who believed they were winning suddenly found themselves under siege, trapped against the cage, absorbing volume and chaos. Prochazka's unpredictability, spinning attacks, looping punches, sudden bursts, made it impossible to settle into comfort. What made this comeback special was not perfection, but defiance. Prochazka did not dominate cleanly. He suffered. He bled. He absorbed damage that would cause many fighters to fold or disengage. Yet each time, he responded not with caution. His style remained chaotic, but beneath the chaos was discipline, an understanding of timing, rhythm, and psychological warfare that only comes from experience. This approach re-established Prochazka's identity as one of the most dangerous light heavyweights alive. Not because he was unbeatable, but because he was unbreakable. Losses had not diminished him, they had clarified him. In a division often defined by power and explosiveness, Prochazka reminded the world that endurance, willpower, and belief can be just as lethal. Fans responded accordingly. His fights in 2025 were among the most thrilling on the calendar, delivering drama that extended beyond highlight reels. Every round carried tension. Every exchange felt consequential. Win or lose moments became irrelevant. What mattered was the journey through adversity. Performance bonuses followed, but more importantly, admiration returned, perhaps stronger than before. Prochazka was no longer just a champion from the past. He was a force in the present. His Comeback of the Year nomination reflected something deeper than statistics or finishes. It acknowledged a fighter who reclaimed himself in the most honest way possible by refusing to compromise his spirit. Prochazka did not try to erase his losses. He absorbed them, learned from them, and carried them into battle as fuel. His comeback was not about repairing damage. It was about embracing it. In the end, Jiri Prochazka's 2025 season delivered a timeless message within mixed martial arts. Losses do not define a warrior. Decline is not determined by age or scars. What matters is response. And Prochazka responded with heart, chaos, and relentless forward motion. In doing so, he reminded the UFC world that some fighters are dangerous, not because they avoid pain, but because they are willing to walk through it and keep going. Shauna Bannon's 2025 comeback story unfolded far from the glare that surrounds title fights and superstar divisions, yet in many ways it captured the purest emotional essence of mixed martial arts. Hers was not a comeback measured by rankings or legacy debates, but by survival, belief, and the quiet pressure of proving that she truly belonged on the UFC stage. In a sport where confidence is everything and doubt can end careers before they ever begin, Bannon's moment of resilience became one of the most meaningful technical comebacks of the year. Entering 2025, Shauna Bannon was still searching for her footing in the UFC. Her early run had been uneven, marked by flashes of skill, but also by moments that left questions unanswered. She was not yet a household name, and that uncertainty carried its own weight. Unlike established stars, fighters in Bannon's position compete not only against their opponent, but against time, expectation, and the fear that one more loss could quietly push them out of the conversation altogether. Adding to that burden was the responsibility of representing her country, a source of pride that can also amplify pressure when results do not come easily. That pressure came crashing down in a single, terrifying instant during her 2025 bout. A clean head kick landed flush, sending Bannon violently to the canvas. It was the kind of moment that changes fights instantly, and often careers. In women's MMA especially, where momentum and confidence are critical, being dropped hard can unravel even the most prepared athletes. Viewers have seen it countless times. A fighter freezes, scrambles without purpose, or mentally checks out as survival replaces strategy. What followed instead was the defining moment of Bannon's UFC journey. Despite the shock of the impact, Bannon never lost her awareness. Hurt, but conscious, she made decisions, not reactions. Rather than attempting to explode back to her feet or absorb further damage in desperation, she trusted her training. She tied her opponent up, disrupted follow-up strikes, and bought herself precious seconds to recover. These small choices, often invisible to casual fans, are the difference between panic and professionalism. As the fight transitioned to the ground, Bannon's composure became even more apparent. Where many fighters cling to survival, she immediately began advancing position. Her movements were controlled, economical, and purposeful. She recognized openings, adjusted her hips, and calmly worked her way into a dominant grappling position. The chaos of being knocked down was replaced by clarity. Then came the finish. With technique honed through preparation rather than force, Bannon locked in an armbar. There was no wasted motion, no frantic squeezing. It was clean, tight, and inevitable. Her opponent tapped, and in that instant, disaster transformed into triumph. What moments earlier looked like the beginning of another setback became Bannon's first UFC finish, a milestone that carried far more emotional weight than the result alone suggests. This comeback was powerful precisely because it was not built on brute strength or wild aggression. It was built on intelligence, patience, and belief. Bannon demonstrated something that cannot be taught easily: the ability to stay calm when instincts scream to panic. That mental clarity under extreme stress separated her performance from dozens of similar knockdowns that end very differently. The impact of that victory extended well beyond one night. Securing her first UFC finish reshaped how Bannon saw herself as a fighter. Confidence gained from survival is transformative. It reinforces trust in preparation, validates countless hours in the gym, and replaces self-doubt with quiet certainty. From that point forward, Bannon was no longer simply trying to belong. She had proven she could thrive under the worst circumstances. Her 2025 journey became symbolic for fighters everywhere who struggle through early setbacks. Not every UFC career begins with dominance. Many are forged through loss, doubt, and moments that test belief. Bannon's comeback sent a clear message: progress is not always linear, and resilience can be just as defining as talent. She showed that one moment of calm decision-making can rewrite a narrative that seemed to be slipping away. When viewed alongside the comeback stories of César Almeida and Jiri Prochazka, Bannon's achievement completes the full picture of what the UFC Comeback of the Year truly represents. Almeida embodied explosive redemption, the sudden reversal where precision and patience turn near defeat into instant victory. Prochazka represented endurance and identity, the long war of attrition where heart and philosophy overcome doubt across multiple battles. Bannon, meanwhile, represented survival and growth, the quiet triumph of technique and composure when everything appears to be falling apart. Together, these stories defined 2025 as a year that celebrated something deeper than belts and highlight reels. They reminded fans that mixed martial arts is ultimately about choice under pressure. Standing tall when moments are designed to break you. Adapting when fear demands chaos. Choosing courage when the outcome is uncertain. Shauna Bannon's comeback may not have dominated headlines, but it resonated where it mattered most with fighters, coaches, and fans who understand how close the edge truly is. Her story proved that the greatest victories often begin not with confidence, but with vulnerability, and that sometimes the most powerful comeback is simply refusing to give in when everything tells you to fall.